Hey everybody, thanks for checking out my latest video. So here I'm going to talk about Sorare, Sorare.com, their football, aka soccer. They just installed a Bundesliga Draft Beta Contest, similar to their La Liga one that they just put in. So I just wanted to go over it real quick and what my picks were this week. So last week on the La Liga Santander, didn't do that great. Only the top 200 get something. Griezmann was decent. David Garcia defense. The goalie was decent. Morata crapped out. Alcaraz crapped out. On the other contests, I've been entering my limited into the academy. I never did the academy before, and I think it might be worth doing, so I've just been doing that. Also, because I didn't have a decent limited goalie. But you can see my limited players actually did all right, because considering I only buy cheap players. But that didn't do that great. Tier 1 and Tier 1 on my casual. The week before, I think I was top 1,000 on my casual. So I did actually buy one because I had bought some NBA cards, and before that I bought MLB, and I think I sold a couple. I think I sold an MLB one, and I ended up buying a limited goalie, and I think he's starting for Kayseri in Turkey. Going in, I got him for like 14. But then I looked, and they only have him at 75% of starting. Another side I looked at has him starting, so I got a limited goalie now, which can help me build regular lineups. But on the Spain one, you can make 2 exchanges into your team. So I had Courtois and Ledesma as my goalies, and then I had Griezmann and Morata as my forwards. Now, Griezmann's really expensive. He's 64, so I was going to swap him out and pick up Lewandowski and another player, because Lewandowski's only 56. These are based on the last 15 games, so they adjust. Actually, he's 66 in the game, I believe, or he was. So, but I decided not to, because Lewandowski's on suspension. So I just decided to roll with Griezmann for one more week and then take him out. And I ended up picking up, and so I had Gavi. I kept David Garcia, I kept Pau Torres. So I swapped in Memphis, who's only 39 on Barca, I believe, and he's expected to get a transfer and get some playing time. So I believe you can use these as common cards going forward as well. So I thought that would be a good one. And I actually picked up Luis Milla, and I think that's it. To start at midfield. He's on Getafe. You can see his numbers there on the recent games. So with my Spain team, I ended up like I said, it might be better if I'd swapped out Griezmann for a different striker, but for this week I went ahead and roll with him. Griezmann, Courtois, Pau Torres, David Garcia, so 2 defenders, and then Gavi. You can see last week's the team that won it actually had Pau Torres on it, but he wasn't their biggest scorer. They had Joselu and Stoll, a couple of more famous players. So then for the Bundesliga one, just real quick on the table, Bayern is far ahead. Look at their goal differential, 36. Nobody else is plus 10. So you're going to want to have 2 Bayern Munich players on your team. Down at the bottom, interestingly, Schalke and then Bochum are, based on goal differential, they're not looking good. And then you look at like Leverkusen isn't very high. Now they've had quite a break in the Bundesliga. But just some names that you might not expect quite as much are currently up there, but really Bayern. So what did I go ahead? Let's see. I went ahead and and real quick on the NBA one. I'm sorry, on the NBA one. So I've got quite a few limited now that I've won. I bought a few. I didn't have my best week last week because the Simmons didn't play. Didn't cash anything for the first time in a while. But what's frustrating is I somehow missed doing the lineup this week because I think because of MLK Day, the game started early. And what's frustrating is that The biggest outperformer, the second biggest, is Sengun on the Rockets, who's been great. I have a limited of him. So I would have gotten 71 points from him, and I'd be very likely to cash. So that's extremely frustrating because I would have started him on that. Anyway, let me go back to the football with the Bundesliga. So let's see. So I went ahead and went with Kimmich from Bayern and Musiala. Kimmich is amazing, as a lot of people know, in Sorare. He's 68, and then Musiala. I was looking at the different strikers. He's got a lot of assists and goals. He's only 19, also under 23. The goalies, I believe this Christensen is starting, and Olszewski. Christensen's on Hertha Berlin, and he's very cheap. And then Olszewski's starting for, I believe, for Borussia Mönchengladbach. Then I had to fill in. So I had a midfielder. So then my starting defender, I believe I went with this Edmund Tapsoba on Leverkusen. He's got good numbers. And then backups, I had a decent amount of space. I ended up going Thiago Thomas, forward, Sebastian Bornau, defender, and Felix Mcheka, midfielder. And two of those are on Wolfsburg. Let's see and Wolfsburg's actually on the upper side of the table. So my team on that, and I need to check some of the other ones for this, but so on the Bundesliga one, I went with Christensen as far as I know he's starting, Tapsoba, Kimmich, Musiala, Tomas. Now, if you look on, let's see, like Sorare data has information on all the players, depending on how you're if you have the premium access. But one other thing I wanted to show is if you do just search on Sorare, for example, and under Bundesliga or La Liga, because this is based on last 15 average score is your salary cap, then if you want to look for players who are lightening it up more recently. Now remember, the World Cup is sort of messing things up on some of them, but like here I put in forwards who have a last 15 average of 50 or less, who have scored 60 or more. And this Christopher Antwi popped up. I actually used to own his limited and sold it a while ago. I didn't realize he was starting to turn it on. But I'm not sure how much he's starting. I almost picked him. And then the Lewis Mcheka is who I ended up picking for Wolfsburg, because he's going for 30 pounds, so he's a good player. People want him. So I ended up picking him. That's an example. And they're the only two guys like that. Or if you put like midfielder, this is just a one way to search. Then you can say the same thing. Last 50, when they're scoring 60 a game, there's Schmidt, Wimmer, Baku, Julian Brandt, depending on how much salary cap space you have. And then you can go back and look, and he goes for a lot. You can go back and look, and also when you do your pick screen, when you actually do the pick screen with the draft and the redraft, it shows you a little more stats on the guys. So like Musiala has started 93% of the games. Thiago Thomas has started 87% over the last this. And you can see, go back and see their scores. So they do have more information now in a better format on here. And I had one budget left over. So I got Kimmich. You can see, I mean, his numbers are incredible. You can see that on Sorare data as well. Cheka started 87% of the games at a 43 salary. He sort of was coming on this year, not as much like earlier in the year or last season. He's sort of been coming on recently, but again, he's my backup. Tapsoba was who I ended up going with as a starting defender. You can see he has a 90, a 60, so he can get points, 70. He started 100% of the games. Bornau, again, I'm not super familiar with some of the Bundesliga players. He had a couple of good games in there, started 67%. Goalies, Olszewski started 67%. Christensen started 67%. If you notice, before the World Cup, he started all the games, and he's projected to start, as far as I know, this one. Same thing with Olszewski. So that's it. Basically, I put my big salaries into Kimmich and Musiala, and then looked for a good defender. a good goalie, a decent goalie, and then another backup. And I believe I was going with Tomas. Let me see. Who did I go with the starters? Yeah, I went with Tomas as my backup. I need to double check that he's starting. I mean, if you can get 5 really good starters, then the others to be not as good. But I believe the salary minimum on here, like on the Spain one, is up to 40. And again, you can make 2 swaps this week. So I went ahead and swapped in guys that actually are not starting, but they're promising. And next week, I'm probably going to swap out Griezmann if his salary's still high and he doesn't come through this week. But now I have Courtois, who I had gotten the first week on my bench, so I got a great goalie. And not the best team, but like could do something. All right, that's it. Have a good one. Thanks for checking out my latest video. I'm going to be doing one on the DraftKings ReignMakers UFC probably coming up as well. Thanks.